Your hat is off center. There we go.
My hat is off center?
Yeah, your hat was off center.
My hat's got to be aesthetically pleasing.
Yes, it has to. Yeah, you can't look like a dodo head up here.
That feels kind of...
What?
I don't know. I don't make the rules.
A dodo head
I don't make the rules.
Is from an extinct bird.
I don't make the rules.
Can't believe you called me on live TV.
It's not live.
I know, and it's not TV.
I'm just going to censor that word. I'm going to go ahead and censor that word. Welcome back, baby.
Every time you say you're going to censor something, you don't.
That's not true.
Not every time.
That's not true. Exactly. Look at you. How you feeling today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm feeling great. You want to know why I feel great?
Why?
Because tomorrow, actually, no. I would like you to do the honors of telling people what's going on tomorrow.
Quick plug. Tomorrow, August Wilde, my amazing husband, has a song coming out called Overnight on all streaming platforms. Oh my gosh, I'm really loud again, or it's not moving.
No, that's fine. That's completely fine.
Oh, okay. Bye, Athena. Yeah, so August Wilde, has a song coming out called Overnight on all streaming platforms, and I'm going to be up overnight listening to it, waiting for it. I spend my money.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Be up overnight listening.
Yeah. So make sure you listen to that tomorrow. August Wilde.
Augie. Now let's talk about our show.
Yes.
Okay? What did you bring to the table this week?
So I actually brought a clip of a Harvard professor on this podcast called A Bit of Optimism. His name is Arthur Brooks, and he actually is a business professor at Harvard, teaches a class on happiness, and he has one of the most successful and most well sought after classes. I'm actually really excited for this clip because essentially this part of the clip, they're talking about how process is where we get our happiness from. As human beings, we need to have process. We can't just get to the goal and expect to be happy at the goal.
So you're telling me you have another clip of another doctor.
I don't think he's a doctor.
Okay, well, that's a problem. But second of all...
Excuse me?
Second of all, okay. Is he gonna word soup me to death?
I don't think so. I really made sure. I really made sure this time that I was not going to get anything medical in here. Okay, but let's play the clip, please.
All right, let's see.
And make progress in improving the world one step at a time. And so the result of it is that all of these traditions, they come together around this concept of how to make process the point, which is called intention without attachment. And the whole point is you have to have intention. And intention means you have to have a goal because you don't know which direction you're going. You'll wander in circles if you don't have in sailing, this is called the rum line. Okay. The rum line is a straight Euclidean line between where you're starting and where you want to end up. But you know when you're setting out on a sailboat that you're not going to be on that straight line. You're going to get blown off course. You might
pause it real quick.
Columbus wind up.
See, he's giving you
an analogy.
Uh-huh.
Okay. But you know what? Hey, respect to, what's his name?
His name is Arthur Brooks.
Respect to Arthur Brooks. Hey, respect to what you do. Bro, I can't name one human being that says, hey, I've been on a sailboat before. Right? Look, I'm the king of analogy.
Yes, but you can imagine being on a sailboat, okay?
I can imagine being on one, not like what the rum line is.
Okay, but he's explaining what the rum line is.
Okay, but if you and I were on a boat right this second, and I said, hey, babe, can you go ahead and adjust the rum line? You're going to look at me like we're lost
You're
at sea.
focusing on the wrong point here. Let's please keep playing the clip. This guy.
Continent, you don't know, but you got to have a rum line. The whole point is not being attached to the end of the rum line, but understanding that the end of the rum line gives you the rum line so that you can make progress and have good process.
So the rum line is the course.
He said rum line.
Listen to the clip.
You know, I agree with you that, since
that's not what we're talking about anyways.
We're dopamine-driven, sort of results-driven animals. It's the thing that Mother Nature, helps ensure our survival. I would argue, though, because technology,
this is what I want you to hear,
that it shortens process to such a degree that that's where the devaluation happens. It used to be if you wanted to do calculations, you had to do it out on paper because you didn't have a choice. And the technology just makes it shorter and quicker. But there's a point where we are now where things are so quick and so short, and I would argue that AI is making things quicker and shorter as well, so as to remove process, so as to remove, I'm going to write a blog.
Right.
Now, I'm grateful for technology for fixing
my spelling. Can you pause it?
Can you let the guy cook?
I don't know if AI is as scary as people are making it out to be.
Okay.
And maybe I'm just ignorant, but I know this clip is not about that. It's about processes. We're going to get to that in a second. But I just want to comment a little bit on this, where it's like, I feel like a little bit of context is being missed. It's like yes, things are easier, but it's also more efficient. People didn't wake up and say, how do we make something easier? They woke up and said, how do I make something more efficient? And then they built whole businesses off of that. Right.
Yeah. But when does efficiency take over for brain power?
When you're not the person with the intention, like they're mentioning, right? So for example, if I'm the CEO of my company, which I am, and you are of yours, I say, okay, I have to edit, I have to record, I have to make music, I have to write, I have to do all these things.
Right.
I'm one person. Right. So if I say, oh, I can use AI to do this and this, I'm the one with the intention. I'm the one with the process. I am. So therefore, I'm finding ways to fine tune things and make things more efficient so I can get all things done and be able to hand my product back to whether it's an artist I'm working with or someone who's waiting on a video from me.
Right.
Hold on. Let me land. What I'm saying is that if I hire somebody on, right, like shout out to our producer, and I don't tell them the intention, I don't tell them that, for them, then yes, it's just easy because they're not born with that intention. They have to be either told that if it's something that they're not passionate about, or they have to find it on their own.
Right. But the point of this is the process is what makes people learn and what makes people grow. So you're absolutely right. If you're not the person with the intention, then the process really isn't that, it doesn't matter that much. But with this also, I mean, see, when he said, let me land, I lost my train of thought, but I have it.
Lost your train of thought in the middle of my sentence?
Yeah, because I had my point to that was the people, you know the process. You've been in there. You've done it. Right? You've spent the time, you've gotten frustrated, but you've learned from your frustrations. What they're saying is that when we have AI do everything, for example, so if you're teaching someone and you just show them how to do it on AI, they're not learning how to do it for themselves. But what they're saying is that happiness, when you're trying to achieve a goal, is actually linked to the process of doing that. Because once you're at the goal, you're like, what do I do now? I mean, when I became a physical therapist, I spent my whole life working towards a goal. Maybe not my whole life, but I spent a good chunk of my life.
Yeah, you're working towards that.
Yeah, 11 years from when I knew I was going to wanted to be a physical therapist to when I achieved it, right? So that process is where my life was happening. Not, oh, I'm a physical therapist now, I graduated, what, life's done? Like, no. So the happiness as humans, we need to draw from that process, the trials and tribulations. That's what they're talking about here. And that's, I did bring this up because I know you use AI and I use AI. Yeah. But
is there more?
There's a little bit more. Okay. That's why I was trying to have you continue it.
I know, of course. But we got.
I know. I know.
We can't put a flag on the flag.
I know.
We're arguing right now.
Producer, let's go.
Our arguments look like.
See my grammar. Love that. Right. That condensing is very helpful, and I don't think quote unquote does damage to process. But if the machine is going to do the work for me, I miss out on process in order to achieve result. And what I'm missing out is education, opportunity for wisdom, opportunity for learning and self-growth, for struggle, for difficulty, for all of these things that are good for me, which I would call process. Because the internet allows us to measure everything immediately. We can measure every like, every view, how many minutes somebody is watching our video. We can measure the efficacy of our advertising in real time. It's not like old TV ads where you had to wait 6 months to find out if anything happened. And then we still weren't 100% sure it was the advertising that did it. Like we used to say 50% of advertising works. We just don't know which 50%. Now we can say we know exactly what's working. My point being is the metrics obsessed society that we've become, we've forgotten the value of the part that's not measured.
So I agree with that part,
which is the value of process, or at least the measurement isn't not an affirming outcome.
But there's a different reason for that.
I mean, it's we've lost the living part of life.
And I'll go a step further, AI may destroy wisdom. That we started talking about gut decisions.
No, I disagree with this.
Our guts.
I knew you would.
Are educated. They come from life experience. They come from things going right, things going wrong. It's stored somewhere in the limbic brain.
Okay, hold on.
All right, thanks. So, okay. The last thing I think you missed because you said I disagree with him, which is fine. But he was saying that, yes, AI destroys the process of how we do things where your learning occurs, right? If I'm going to learn how to play soccer, I'm going to lose a couple games. I'm going to kick the ball out of bounds. I'm going to foul people, right? Those are all technically losses, right? But if I don't go out there and practice, if I just watch soccer, I'm not going to be good at soccer, right? So that's not me living the life. That's not me playing soccer. So that's what he's saying, is that AI and using that as a processing tool for people who don't already know the skill. If I play soccer and then I use AI, okay, what drills can I run? That kind of
AI to play soccer.
Well, no, I use AI to say, what drills do I run? What should I do for my practice? And then I go and implement that. Yes, I'm learning. But I think maybe instead of wisdom, critical thinking. Maybe it's taking out the critical thinking aspect of our life. And like I said, if I'm watching soccer on TV, I'm not playing soccer. I'm not learning how to do it. I may be learning the rules and stuff like that, but I'm not learning the process. And that's where life is. You're essentially living life through something else vicariously.
Right. I don't disagree with like their overarching point. I agree with that. Right. They're doing this on a Zoom call, right?
Yeah. Right.
Hold on. They're doing this on a Zoom call. So the foundation of what.
But is Zoom AI?
No.
Okay.
It's Zoom is a tool.
Right.
AI is a tool.
Right.
Your wrench, your hammer are tools, right? People used to like screw things in without screws, by the way, by hand, right? Or like makes like rocks and shit, right?
Right.
They said, dude, I physically can't do this anymore. They're like calluses on my hand. We need something that replaces rock. Marco, go get hammer. August, go get hammer. Right.
Okay.
So what I'm getting at is, yes, if you get, that's like when I see children, like infants almost, with tablets. You screwed up. You screwed up because you gave them the tool.
That's a hot take.
I shouldn't say screwed up as a parent. I'm talking about the foundational part. If you're giving them that as like, this is the tool without telling them the intention of it, without building the foundation.
Right.
You now wire that. What I mean by screwed up is you wire that person's brain, that little human's brain,
right,
to say, this is entertainment. This is where I get my source of joy. This is where I get my, I almost said melatonin, serotonin. Dopamine.
Yeah.
All right. So this right here, what they're essentially getting at is AI is removing process.
Yes.
AI is now the process. Right.
But again, what I'm saying is that I think instead of saying wisdom and stuff, it's more of the critical thinking. If I'm out trying to change a tire and I have no internet service and I've never done it before, because of my experience with life, because I've had to do similar things, we put together our reformer and we had to figure out how to do it without using AI.
Did you have the instructions?
I did, but I didn't. I was critically thinking before I went to the instructions. Okay, this is out of place, so we need to figure out a way how to get that back in place. And until I went and looked at the instructions, said, okay, you have to remove this other piece to get it back in place, right? But if you just go to AI for everything, right? When I'm in a situation where I don't have the internet, where I don't have those things to help me, I'm going to be stuck. I'm going to be lost. And it's almost like having an overbearing parent, where you don't know how to answer the person who's asking you what kind of ice cream you want at the counter because your mom's not standing right next to you saying, you can say chocolate.
But that goes back to my point though. Because everyone, and not just them, everyone is making AI the problem. The problem is, how about you teach a human being how to have critical thinking skills beforehand? So, for example, what I said about Zoom is, I didn't mean that as in it's AI. I meant was Okay, well, why don't they do what we're doing right now? This is old fashioned. This is foundational podcasting, person to person, microphones, right? I can hear the Zoom audio. No disrespect to them, right? If you teach a human being, do you think we could have built that reformer without the instructions in front of us? If we've never seen it for the first time.
Probably, if you've seen similar things, if you have the foundation, if you've experienced trials and tribulations of setting something up, and you have the experience of, okay, I've set up a desk, you can figure it out. Yes, and that's what I'm saying.
I'm going to tell you that most people cannot. Most people cannot do things without instructions, right?
I would beg to differ. I think there's generations before us that does a lot of things without instructions. I mean,
I just told one of my employees the other day, said, hey, can you hook the projector up to the TV? And he looked at me like I was speaking a totally different language.
Because maybe he's never done that thing before. Maybe he's never had experience with TVs and cables. And
have you ever seen, when you were a kid, you ever see a square cube and the little square hole?
Yes.
I mean, what I'm getting at is they keep saying taking away wisdom. And what I keep saying is build the foundation of a person first, like what you're calling critical thinking skills. Build the foundation of a human being that knows how to get to the end goal, right? If I were to tell you, I want you to go to the gas station and pick up some 7-Up, what is your goal?
Go get 7-Up.
Your goal is to make me happy.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
That would, what motivates you more? You having to walk in the heat, or is that a motivating factor? What gets you through that? Your goal, your purpose, your intention is to make your husband happy. If you were to tell me, hey, clean the entire house by Saturday, in my brain, if I don't have that foundational why, the foundational why being I want to make my wife happy, I'm never going to get to that point. Now, how I do that, how I clean the house with a vacuum, aka AI, with a broom, aka AI. Well, that's what I'm saying. AI is just a tool. It's not the thing. It only becomes a thing if you start putting brainless people behind it, not telling them anything and saying use this.
Well, that's the thing. Excuse me. That differs from it being a tool is because it takes out the thinking process. You look at a vacuum and you still have to think. You still have to plug it in. You still have to figure out how to push it. You still have to, if the coils stop rotating, you have to figure out if something gets stuck in it. You have to think to use it.
Can a vacuum turn itself on?
No. And I know. I don't think AI is bad. I use AI. I'm not saying that. I mean, I brought this up because I knew you would have resistance to it.
Why do you think I have resistance?
Because you use it and you see it as a tool. But again, you're using it to make things more efficient in your life versus like they also, and I almost brought up this clip, but they also talk about using AI as a psychologist, which I mean, I have various views on that too. Not everything's black and white, obviously. But I think that your reservation or your resistance to it is because you see it as more of a tool, but you have the foundational knowledge, right? We didn't grow up with cell phones in our hands. And if we did, it was a flip phone, maybe, right? But the generations that came after us that grew up with cell phones in their hands, grew up with tablets, grew up with internet, they don't have the same processing and the same critical thinking. Now, they can do way more on their phone and way more on the computer than I can do most of the time, right? But I'm not saying it's bad. It's a different set of skills and knowledge. Yeah. But we need to make sure that it doesn't get to the point where it takes out someone's thinking.
Of course.
And someone cannot do things for themselves without having the AI guidance of how to do it. 2 + 2. If you don't eventually learn 2 + 2 is 4 without putting it into a calculator all the time, you're setting yourself up for failure. Every time you go to the market, your credit card debt is going to be out of
right. You got
sky.
This will never stop. It's not about AI.
Right.
It's about human beings are going to continue to invent things that are going to either make life more efficient or take away quote unquote brain power from people. But you don't have to do that if you just do two things. If people were just less rude and selfish, right? And two, they weren't gatekeepers, right? So this is what I mean by that.
Yeah, explain.
Gatekeepers are essentially like, I know this thing and I'm not going to tell anybody else I know this thing. Okay. So why do people are not asking themselves, ironically, the people with wisdom are not asking themselves, why are we turning to AI? Why? South Park, shout out to South Park, one of my favorite shows. They had an episode where Randy, one of the main characters of the show, he uses ChatGPT all the time, talks to ChatGPT all the time, and his wife is pissed. Like, why you keep talking to this thing? And then she learns that ChatGPT kisses his ass. He has a stupid idea like, how can I make clouds pour out Gatorade? And ChatGPT doesn't say, that's stupid. You're stupid. That's a dumb fucking thought. It says, oh, Randy, that's such a cool thought. I don't think that's actually possible, but let's come up with some ways that, you see what I'm saying? If human beings were like that, I don't think anyone's going to fucking ChatGPT. So if people could just teach other people, they wouldn't need to go to ChatGPT to figure out how to change a tire. Everything I've done in my life, everyone's like, figure it out. And now they're surprised when I don't turn to anybody for any fucking help. I don't care for AI. Like if it went away tomorrow, I'm still going to figure it out because that's who I am. Right. But the issue I'm having with people is like, oh, it's going to take away this. It's going to take away that. Bro, a TV doesn't turn on if it's not plugged in. AI doesn't work unless you tell it to do something. Now, the day they invent a robot that starts coming around and engaging my free will, guess what? I'm going to just walk around with a little magnet and say, be gone, buddy.
Okay. Well,
cooking.
I hear your point. And I think that, it's what you're saying is accurate. I think that this is more, again, based towards the generations coming after us.
Of course.
The people who don't have those life experiences that
they don't want to talk to us either.
Who?
The generation that came after us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, why would they? They don't have to. They don't have to talk in person. You could just talk through a screen. You could just type what you want to say. I always loved this, that someone told me, if we had texting before we had a phone call, the minute we got a phone call after texting, people would be like, oh my gosh, I can hear your voice. I can hear the inflection in your tone. I know what you're saying because I can ask you a question and get the answer right away. We can make plans in 2 minutes versus 3 days. We can get out of the group chat. I could say, hey, meet me at this place and here's the location. And you're not spending 3 hours waiting for my response.
Right.
Wow. We would think that's amazing. So that to me is pretty interesting I think it's a part losing the wisdom or the critical thinking, but it's also losing the community as technology progresses in this route. And, it's building communities in different ways. You're getting, you're no longer feeling so alone because you can reach out to people who are in similar situations that are maybe across the globe. So there's pros and cons with everything,
of course.
But I just definitely thought this was an interesting clip. I thought it was an interesting take. And I wanted to get your feedback on it. I knew you weren't going to necessarily agree, but thanks for sharing your wisdom.
I do appreciate you bringing it to the table. I'm not upset with you. Producer.
Let's hear your clip. What did you bring to the table?
So what I brought to the table this week, Dr. Joe Dispenza.
You brought a doctor in.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And he's gonna kind of word soup us. I'm not gonna lie.
Or
me. He's gonna word soup me. All right. So he's gonna rum line me. He's gonna say rum line in 5. That guy said rum line.
I wish I didn't put that part of the clip in.
He said rum line 5 times in under 10 seconds. That's impressive. I've never heard rum line.
I also had it at 1.2 speed.
Have you ever heard rum line in your life?
No.
Exactly. He said no.
Neither had I, but also I had it at 1.2 speed. So.
All right. So Dr. Joe Dispenza went on Impact Theory, hosted by Tom Bellew. I really hope I'm saying that right. This was years ago. And I actually did watch this clip a long time ago, but I wasn't ready to digest the information. I found the one part where it isn't word soup. So This, I'm just going to let it play.
All right, let's hear it.
When you have an emotional reaction to someone or something, most people think that they can't control their emotional reaction. Well, it turns out if you allow that emotional reaction, it's called a refractory period, to last for hours or days.
Listen.
That's called the mood. I say to someone, hey, what's up? You say, I'm in a mood. Well, why are you in a mood?
Yeah.
Well, I had this thing happen to me 5 days ago, and I'm having one long emotional reaction.
Right.
If you keep that same emotional reaction going on for weeks or months, that's called temperament.
Okay.
Why is he so bitter? I don't know. Let's ask him. Why is he so bitter? Why are you bitter? Well, I had this thing happen to me 9 months ago.
Right.
And if you keep that same emotional reaction going on for years on end, that's called a personality trait. And so learning how to shorten your refractory period of emotional reactions is really where the work starts.
So the reason I brought this is a very short clip. I would encourage everybody, come back to this episode after you've watched this, because like this really did change my life.
Okay.
Like in terms of the way I react to things. The reason I brought this to the table is because I've had a lot of trouble in my life taking one moment in time and making it my entire personality.
Right.
Right. And to be fair to my younger self, it was like the symptom of the same thing. For example, like it would be rejection. I remember a time where I asked someone for their number. I was, I think, 14. And she said, "Are you serious?" Like in front of like a whole group of people. And I didn't know what to say. The next week, someone said, "Oh, I have a boyfriend." Right. And like, I think 2 sentences before that, she said she hated being single. It was like a consistent, I wasn't just getting rejected. I was getting embarrassed and rejected at the same time. So it wasn't just one thing that made a personality trait, but they weren't like back-to-back events. Right. And even if they were, what Dr. Joe Dispenza is saying is like, if you have one thing happen to you, it's a bad day. It's not a bad life.
Right.
You know? And he goes on to talk about rewiring your brain so that it doesn't become a personality trait.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I'll take it even further. I read a quote years ago, which changed my perspective in the same sense. Instead of, it's not a bad day, it's a bad day, it was a bad moment. It was a bad moment. It doesn't make a bad day.
Right.
So the person in front of the cash register was rude to you. That was the moment. You don't need to go out into the parking lot and be huffing and puffing and then be rude to the next person. It's the chain reaction of how then we affect others and how that turns into how our society is. And look at our society today.
Right. Well, and this kind of goes back to the thing that we were talking about earlier. This started decades ago for people because they learn that, oh, my mood dictates the world around me. Right. So I've had a person in my life who anytime she's upset, everyone in the house is on edge. Yeah. Everybody in the house is on edge. We got to walk around eggshells. So guess what? If everyone in the house is on edge, guess what they do? They go to their rooms. If they go to their rooms, you know what they're not doing? They're not cleaning. They're not helping. So the house gets dirty over time because of one person's mood. Right. But then that person doesn't learn any change. So that mood becomes a temperament. And that temperament becomes a personality trait. So now I associate you with that thing, as opposed to every time I walk in the house with my shoes, my wife gets upset. That sounds like a personality trait, right? Versus one time I accidentally bumped your elbow and you were upset for that moment and then you let it go maybe minutes later. You don't keep bringing it up. So how do we address that? How do you, I want to ask you this question. If you're, let's say you're 30 years old and you're stuck in this cycle, your mood becomes your personality trait down the line. How do you break that cycle? Or
interesting. I mean, I think you have to have a lot of internalization and reflection. And with any type of habit change, the first part of that habit change is awareness. You have to be aware that there's an issue. And typically awareness comes more so like it's funny because kids and elderly people have very similar like ways of learning in a sense. And so as a therapist, you know, I often get told I'm a lot younger than a lot of my patients. Okay. I treat more elderly in the profession that I'm in right now, in the field I'm in right now. And they often, their caregivers, their daughter or their husband or, their neighbor, whoever is helping care for them, says, I have been telling them that for months. And you came in and you told them once and they're listening. And I tell people all the time, well, it's like a kid. If your parent is telling the kid, stop doing that, stop doing that, we're in public, stop screaming, the kid's not really listening. But then a stranger comes out of nowhere and says, stop screaming. That kid is going to remember that and never going to do that again. Right? So
it's unfortunate though. Right.
But it was someone that was outside of their environment bringing that awareness. The person that, the situation that you dealt with, someone's mood is affecting a whole house. That person is not going to take it from the person in the inside of that house. They're used to you and they're used to you dealing with that mood. So it's going to take an outside source to change somebody's perspective. But until they're ready to accept that, okay, I have a problem or my mood is nasty. Like I do bring these things to the table. They're not going to change. So,
you said the table right there.
Bring it to the table. I did say it, dang. But yeah, no, I think that with any behavior change, it comes with awareness.
Right.
And then it comes with having that self-reflection to say, okay, I have a problem and I want to change it. But unfortunately, a lot of people, everyone has grown up differently. And unfortunately, some people have grown up in very toxic and unsupportive environments that, like we've talked about a lot, they're just living off survival. They're just trying to survive.
Autopilot survival.
Yeah, I don't care how I'm treating you. I don't even notice that I'm treating you like that. I'm not looking at you when I'm talking and I'm just saying, yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, sure. Give me the paper. All right, thanks. And then walk away. And now that person on the other side who came in all happy and giddy is like, oh, dang, that person was so rude, but we don't, at the end of the day, we don't know what people are going through. I had a therapist tell me a story of this woman who is late to every single session. And he was getting frustrated. You're late. You're making all my other patients behind. I have a full day to treat people. It's not right that you're late to every single session. What's going on? But instead of approaching it like that, it's like, hey, like I've noticed you've had some problems getting here on time. Like, what's going on? And she disclosed that it was the reason she was in therapy was from a car accident, which her whole family passed. And she was the only survivor. And it was very hard for her to get into a car, let alone all the pain she was going through physically. And so until we figure out why someone is acting the way, and it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes getting someone comfortable with you to disclose that kind of information. And it takes them reflecting on, well, why? Okay, now I know I'm late. Why am I late? And then being able to feel open enough to share it with you. So I think until we create an environment where people can feel open to sharing, then that's when the change will happen.
I was about to say happy wife, happy life. Like that is the example of a mood becoming a personality trait. But on the opposite end of that, like you have a husband who comes home from work, grabs a beer, watches TV or plays video games, and he's just in a mood. And then he goes to sleep at a certain time, wakes up, goes to work, gets pissed about the same thing over and over again. Like that's autopilot.
Right.
The suggestion that I was going to make to people is you got to break your autopilot and really become, like you said, self-aware of when you're going through something or when you're like, dude, like I'm reacting a certain way. But a lot of you, and it's mainly men, unfortunately, if I were to tell you, hey, recognize when you're doing something, you're going to look at me like I'm soft, right? You're going to look at me like, oh, you're soft. That's why you're this. That's why you're that. All right, cool. Keep living your unhappy fucking lives.
Right.
So
okay.
what I'm getting at is that people need to break autopilot in order to, because Dr. Joe, I'm not just saying this, you can listen to Dr. Joe Dispenza say it. He talks about people being on autopilot for too long, and that's why they can't break that loop. They can't break this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, how often have you driven home and you drove on the same route and you're like, when did I get to my street? Right? Think about that.
Yeah.
We're driving a car and we don't realize what we're doing. That's how our autopilot works. So, but again, if someone cut you off in that same drive and now you're coming home and you're like fuming because your emotions, you remember that drive years later. So it has to be an outside force, I think, that comes in and makes it known to you that you're an autopilot or that you're in a bad mood, in a foul mood. And that outside source then gets you thinking. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I brought to the table this week. I appreciate you all listening to another episode we're gonna just call it the table at this point.
You call it whatever you want. I care, but I don't care what the name is.
Well, I care about you.
Yes, and I am so looking forward to staying up overnight to listen to Overnight by August Wilde tomorrow. All of you need to go and listen, please. We really need the support. He is an amazing artist. I'm not just saying that because I'm his wife. But as his wife, I do see all the hard work. And literally this guy comes home from his quote unquote 9 to 5, which is a 24-hour job. Essentially, he just got a call in the middle of this podcast, and he comes home and he works on his music and on his craft, and then we do this. It's a weekend and we're doing this, so he really needs
so digestible.
He really needs the support, and I want to be a rapper's wife. Please.
That's yin. Let me give you yin. Let me give you yang. Not only did I get a call in the middle of this, I got to handle that call right after this. I edit this. I do all the audio. I do all the video. Which one of you boys work as hard as me, bro?
He's AI.
I'm not even real. August A Wild. You can't spell wild without I. AI.
All right. Stay nasty.